What is going on, Valorant agents? Thank you guys for checking out the video today. My name is Alex. We are back here again with some more Cypher setups for Valorant. We're starting with BREZZEY today. We are going to show off some setups on A and on B site here on BREZZEY. Make sure to check out the video all the way through to see the best setups. Make sure to comment or like if you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think your favorite setups are for BREZZEY. And without further ado, let's go. When first starting around with this first setup, what you're going to want to go ahead and do is immediately before the walls drop, you're going to want to go ahead and make sure you have a tripwire setup right here. The wall is going to be somewhere right about here. That's where the wall is going to be, so you're going to want to make sure that you have your tripwire set up as close to that wall as possible. And from moving on to site, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure that we have our camera placed right about here into the foliage, talking to the trees. That way we have a good, decent view of when they start to push in, if they start to go into that corner right there. Then our second tripwire is going to want to be go ahead and placed right about here. We're going to want to go ahead and start it low, but if you want, you can move it a bit up higher just to make sure that no one jumps over it or no one is able to teleport or blast pack over it. For cages, we're going to want to go ahead and put one cage right about there. That way it covers the tripwire, making sure that they cannot see the edges of that. Then moving on over towards mid, we're going to want to go ahead and set up a fairly easy one-way right about here, making sure you get it in that little nook, in that little crevasse. Once you do that, you're going to want to go ahead and place yourself a little bit over here, taking a dip in the water, putting your toesies and your feetsies in the water. And then from there, you just take a look on your camera. You can glance slightly if they decide to push out towards the right side of door or left side for you. And then from there, you can pop that cage right there, be able to fire and shoot them through there, all while still being able to see them. As well, if they go through mid, you can pop that cage. Very wonderful one way. You can see all the way out through there. I think this setup works really, really well because I believe it allows you to still give yourself a fair amount of the site. You're not giving up too much of the site, and assuming you have another person here, either over there or maybe even more towards mid door, it'll give you time to make a plan with your teammate, rotate around where the enemies are going, all while still maintaining pressure and presence on the site. And now, because Cypher doesn't have that many insane setups on this site, or on this map, preferably this site, that is going to be our only setup here for A. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at a couple of other camera setups, depending on if you want to play more passively or more aggressively. If you are a player who likes to play more aggressively and you want to take those aim duels and make sure that you are getting the first shot off, this is a wonderful, wonderful setup for that. It is a little bit open to both angles. That way, if it's on and someone sees it, they're able to very, very quickly destroy it. However, if you are able to get the first look off, if you are able to take a good peek, get a good line off, get a good shot off, you'll be able to take your aim duels with a little bit more certainty whether they're knowing where they are or not. Our next camera position. And now for our more passive camera position, if maybe you're not someone who wants to take aim duels or sort of wants to wait for your team to regroup and hop onto site, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure our camera is in that little crevice right there, just above A cave. It is kind of finicky at first. If you start to get a bit worrisome of it, you can always just put your camera back to default over there. But it is a very, very good passive one. It takes enemies a second to see it, and even so, even if they do see it, they have to turn themselves completely around in order to shoot it, all while giving you time to shoot them, assuming you were able to get your shot off with the camera. But it is very, very good. It gives you a lot of good angles to peek, and it's able to stay there for a very long time. Now, our last camera position, I believe, is something a bit of a best of both worlds type situation. Maybe that's just me. But it's a bit of a one that sort of allows you to have that aggressive peeking all while being passive. Now you're going to want to have it right about there, and what you want to make sure is that it's not too far down. If you put it too far down, you will not be able to see this far into A cave. The reason why I believe this is a really, really good camera, and it's a best of both worlds, whether you're not sure if you want to play passively or aggressively, or you're not confident on your shot. It is still fairly open to be shot at if they can see it from that far away, but it is a very small camera, And along with that, it still gives you a really, really good deep angle look at cave right here. That way you can see them pushing through there, see them here, or if they've completely taken over site, you can even see them here and a little bit here, all while giving you a bit of a still respectable camera position. It takes them a little bit longer to see it. It might take a couple of tags from the camera for them to even be aware of where it is. But I believe, in my opinion, that this is the best of both worlds camera for passive or aggressive playstyles. And now, without further ado, we are going to go ahead and move on over towards the B site of BREZZEY. For our first setup right here, we're going to want to go ahead and make sure that we are standing on this half wall right here. And you're going to want to make sure that you time it just perfectly to where you're able to get your camera right here. It is a bit odd of a jump. You're going to need to do it a couple of times in the custom games to make sure that you're able to get it. But this is a very, very wonderful camera position, giving you a good look of the entire B site, making sure that it is all completely captured, minus a few blind spots. But it will make sure that there are not people pushing elbow or making sure that there are people coming in through B main. Once you have the camera all set up, you are going to want to go ahead and put a tripwire right about here on site. You can decide to move it higher or lower based on your preference and based on if you are playing against a jet or a raise or something that will go ahead and trip that easily without actually catching a person. I believe this is a very, very good one because it allows you to block off default, all while being able to make sure if they are pushing more towards on-site or not. Then from there, you're going to want to go ahead and set up another tripwire on this good pipe right here, making sure it is on the pipe and not slightly off of the pipe. Putting it on the pipe allows it for that a bit of a wonky tripwire right there, makes it a bit harder to shoot off, makes it a bit more confusing for the enemy team. This gives you good info if there are people trying to push towards elbow, whether they destroy it or whether they don't. This way, there will not be a way for them to push onto site otherwise coming through here without destroying one of these tripwires or tripping them. Now, as is customary with most Cypher tripwires, you're going to want to go ahead and place some cages along with them, making sure that they are in the middle, making sure they are not able to get hit by them. So once you have both of your cages set up on both of your tripwires, you are just going to want to make sure you position yourself a little bit closer in towards B main. This is a little bit more of an aggressive positioning, but this will also net you more kills and a bit more presence on the site, allowing you to take control of it if they start to push. What you're going to want to do is just make sure that you are keeping an eye on B main with your camera at all times. Once you start to see them push in, if you maybe start to see them going more towards default, you'll go ahead and trip your cage, start firing. They'll get tripped through the cage, and a wonderful thing about this half wall is it is completely wall bangable. You do not have to peek yourself at all whatsoever. Granted, they can shoot you right back, but you have the element of surprise, so you'll be able to view them through this. If you want to tag them, you can, or if maybe you're good enough just being able to see them, you can spot them, activate your cage, start firing through the wall. The enemy will not be able to see anything. They can try to shoot to where you are, but for the most part, they will be completely blinded. Moving more towards elbow, if they start to come towards elbow, you are definitely going to want to make sure that you activate these traps these cages before you start to peek and fire. You can do a little bit of wall banging right there, but you are going to want to make sure that you are activating the cages. That way, you do not get pushed a little too quickly because it is very, very close to you. But making sure that that is good to go. If you are an enemy pushing through that, this is what you're going to see. You're going to come in, you're going to try to go. You're going to get hit by the cage. You're going to be worrying about that. You're going to be confused if someone's over here in the corner. You're going to be confused if someone's over there. You are going to be checking a lot of angles, and by that time, if you are the Cypher on the defending team, you're going to get some wins. Using this exact same setup, if you are playing a little bit more aggressively right here and you are either getting pushed off of site or you just maybe want to play a bit more passively, I would recommend not doing this until later in the round once they have pushed you, or else you might get shot. But if you want to go ahead and position yourself a little more back here, same camera, same tripwires, same cages. It's a wonderful, wonderful setup. You're still able to see, and most importantly, this is obviously still very wall bangable. B site on BREZZEY has a ton of wall bangable positions, not only for Cypher, but for all agents. Make sure you are taking advantage. Make sure you are taking the opportunities that you get. And make sure that you're wall banging. If you are potentially looking for other Cypher camera setups here on B site, we do have a couple of new ones here for you thanks to the changes they have made to BREZZEY. This one right here, back sight, is a very, very good one. It again requires you to do a little bit of jumping with this half wall, making sure you are in line with that and making sure that you are able to jump and get that positioned correctly. This is a very, very wonderful camera for playing a bit more passively, maybe entirely passively. It gives you a good look over here onto elbow. That way you are able to see if they are pushing more back into your spawn. It gives you a good look of most of the site without default, and if you hear it planted without seeing it, you can pretty much guarantee you know where it is in between that pillar. For another camera setup as well, you're going to want to make sure that you are standing again on this half wall, and you're just going to want to put it right there on the camera. I think I should be able to do that again very quickly. It is a fairly easier one to do compared to some of the other ones. You're just going to want to make sure that you have it lined up exactly where you want it to. You can still see inside B main very slightly, but not as good as the other setups that we have shown. However, this one is a bit easier if you don't have the other ones down, or if you just are in a bit of a rush and want to go ahead and set up really quickly. This will still give you a decent look onto the site, especially as well as B main, all while still being very viable. If you want to take a bit of a more aggressive approach to your camera and take a peek down B main, you're going to want to make sure that you set it up just right there on the leaf of that tree. It is a bit of a wonky one again. You're going to want to make sure you are on the half wall. You're going to want to make sure you have it positioned correctly. And you're just going to want to put it right about there, making sure it is in the right spot. This gives you a very, very deep look into B main. It gives you a good idea of what is happening. Obviously, it is going to get shot out very, very quickly, but if you are someone who likes to peek early, or if you maybe want to keep it for later in the round, maybe check to see who's towards mid, it will be very, very good. You're able to tag them and bag them. And finally, for a bit of a variation on our very first Cypher camera here on B site, we're going to want to make sure that it is put a bit slightly. That is where we put it before. We are going to want to make sure it is a bit slightly there. Still get a good view of everything. You're very much able to tag and take a look through B tunnel, all while still making sure you can see the back of sight, elbow of sight, and through B main. This one is very, very good alternative for the first one that we put right there, and it will make sure that it will put you in the most precise and pressure situations that you can win. And if you've made it this far in the video, that means that we have come to the end of our video. Thank you guys very much for checking it out. I appreciate it a lot. That is going to be all the setups here for Cypher on Breeze. What were your favorite ones? Did I do some of them wrong? Did I do some of them good? Do you have a better one? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. Check out other videos. Check out other setups that we are doing. We're going to be doing more and more in the future, so be sure to keep an eye out. And I will see you guys very soon.